Tonight on Final Boss, our producer John Dunaway takes a look back at his time with the show in his final episode. Jessica flies us to a galaxy far, far away in her hopes for Star Wars Battlefront 3. It's clobbering time as Justin breaks down both Marvel and DC. What's T-Box? T-Box 1 takes a nostalgic look at the history of the Sega Dreamcast. Get ready, boss incoming.
What is Final Boss? Final Boss is the product of three great friends, a show by gamers for gamers. Here you'll find all the best in gaming entertainment and talk. We've got reviews, roundtables, previews, let's plays, walkthroughs, all the best in gaming content to keep you coming back for more. So get ready, boss incoming.
I'm Robert Adams,
And I'm Brandon Turner.
and this is your gaming news.
The overlords of the used game market at GameStop have discovered a way to combat increasing digital game sales. Just sell old stuff. That's right. GameStop has announced that they will soon give you $1 for your old NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, PS1, Sega Genesis, and Sega Dreamcast games, only to sell them back at a vastly inflated price later on. For now, they'll be testing the waters with a few of their stores in places like New York, but they plan to expand it later this year. So congratulations, gamers! Now you'll finally be able to get an answer that you want to that age-old question. Does GameStop have Battletoads?
Also in gaming news, for those of you who waited for info on the new Silent Hills, I have some info for you, alright, but it's not the kind you want. Recently, Silent Hills was canceled for unknown reasons at this time. Also, right after this announcement, PT, the playable teaser for the game, was pulled from online. When Kojima was asked about why such an anticipated game was canceled, people were given no comment. I hope people put this back up soon because I believe an old game did this once and then phones started selling for thousands of dollars. Flappy Bird. I'm Robert Adams.
And I'm Brandon Turner. And that was your gaming news.
Hello, I'm Eric Thomas, Director of the Star Theater here at Morehead State University, and I'd like to invite you to come out and join us for some of the great programs we offer in the Star Theater. Our programs are both educational, with planetarium programs, and entertaining, with laser shows that feature artists such as Elton John all the way out to Metallica. So come join us at the Star Theater, located in the Space Science Center here on the campus of Morehead State University. And if you've got questions, go online to moreheadstate.edu/startheater.
In Mortal Kombat X, one thing makes the world go round. Coins, which is spelled with a K for obvious reasons. With these golden round discs in the crypt, you can buy fatalities, costumes, and in some cases, even buy more coins. Recently, through binge playing the game for a while, I have found the most effective ways for you to rack up coins. The first way is fighting. I know it seems obvious, but you would be surprised how many people forget what the true concept of this game is all about. Destroying opponents in one-on-one combat. The best part about this, the more you fight and win, the more coins you get. I prefer the tower for character endings, but if you really want some coinage, you should play story mode. Second way is the crypt. While this is where you spend most of your coins, it would seem a bit counterintuitive to look for coins here. But actually there's quite a bit to be found. Inside some of the chests is the coins you desperately desire. Usually the amount of coins inside is far more than the box would indicate. Also, this time in the crypt, there are creatures that lie around every corner, be it spiders, giant man beasts, you name it. But if you can complete a one-button quick-time action, you get rewarded with coins, making it easy when you really don't want to fight. Plus, getting hit has no penalty, so swing away and keep trying. I'm Robert Adams, and this is Final Boss.
Video games and comic books are both embraced by the lovable geeks of the world, so it just makes sense when the two mediums, DC and Marvel, can't seem to stay apart. Fans have been debating the merits of both publishers since the 1940s, but we're hoping by focusing on just the games, we might finally be able to decide who's the winner in the battle that is DC versus Marvel. DC and Marvel have a history of releasing games that are very similar to one another, and they're going to continue to do it. Why not? I mean, they're making money after all. Injustice: Gods Among Us, DC Ultimate Alliance, and Marvel Avengers: Battle for Earth are very similar games in concept. They each feature all of our favorite heroes, and they're going against one another. Now, each game has its pros and cons. With Marvel Avengers, they use the Xbox Kinect, and it's a really cool concept, but in comparison to games like Injustice and DC Ultimate Alliance, it really falls in comparison, and DC overall wins that game. I mean, Injustice is one of my favorite fighting games because it's Mortal Kombat-esque nature. Let's throw back to the first games. Superman for the Atari came out in 1978. Now, Superman is one of the earliest home console titles there is, and it shows how painfully primitive it is as well. Superman is made out of less than 10 pixels, and he has a rather boring task of searching an ugly built metropolis to repair a bridge. On the Marvel side, we have Spider-Man for the Atari. Spidey brought Marvel into gaming 4 years later with a simple title, Spider-Man. Much has changed since the Superman title. Spidey's game focuses on the simple goal of climbing buildings to deactivate bombs from the Green Goblin. While web swinging barely works, for that round, Spider-Man and Marvel win. Next we have DC and Marvel's movie tie-ins with the Ryan Reynolds Power Minute. X-Men Origins Wolverine was a great game. Wolverine is a tough-nosed fighter that usually has to hold back in T-rated games, but with the M-rated Origins, it lets Wolverine put his claws to good use. By the time you fight Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, much is left to be desired.
I know you're around here.
With what Deadpool lacks, Wolverine makes up for it. I mean, the charms wore off, the God of War style grisly gameplay at least stood out from its other Marvel games. Continuing the Ryan Reynolds fest, we have Green Lantern Rise of the Manhunters. Now, we all know Green Lantern was a terrible box office disappointment, but the video game was actually kind of better, so definitely on that round, Marvel wins again with X-Men. Last but not least, we have the best open world games. Batman Arkham City is DC's best game of choice, and one of the best games that DC has ever helped contribute with. Arkham City is just, it's so fantastic, it's beautiful, the gameplay is great, and being able to travel around Arkham City is something that's different, and there's always something to do. On the Marvel side, we have Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Spidey's been swinging free in New York for years, and Web of Shadows is his most memorable trip through the Big Apple. Now, the game could have some better stuff, like fighting random Marvel heroes kind of throws you off, but it's really hard to, you have to give it up for them. I mean, they tried, but in comparison to Batman Arkham City, there is none. The only game that may be better than Arkham City is the new Batman Arkham Knight that is coming out later. Stay tuned on Channel 85 for more.
My name is Scotty Purnell. I've been here 9 years. We take the trash out of the buildings and put it in the garbage truck. In there, the chute is way up high on the wall where the trash comes out into the buggy. And you have to take a big iron hook, reach up and hook the trash, and it's falling down towards you. It's not a boring job. It's, you can get out and talk. We're always finding something very interesting. I mean, you never know what you're going to find in the trash. I like my job very much.
Welcome back to Final Boss. Now, this week was National Superhero Day, and it is also the premiere of Avengers 2 Age of Ultron. So this week we're going to talk about some of our favorite superhero video games and also some superhero video games that we're hoping for in the future. Now, I'm going to start with you because I don't think yours is even a superhero, so we'll go there.
Okay. My favorite superhero is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I know what you're thinking. Maybe she's not a superhero.
She's
she
not.
is.
That's
she
exactly
is.
what I'm thinking.
Into each generation, a Slayer is born. She has super strength, super power. She can regenerate like her health.
Okay.
She's a superhero. She saves
Does
people.
Buffy have a video game? Or are you hoping for a video
No,
game?
she has a video game for Xbox, Chaos Bleeds, and she has one for the Game Boy. And I know it's not plausible, but I totally hope they have another game. Like, because the season ended season 7 for the television show. So if they could make like season 8, because in the comics it's like way more global. They go
Gotcha.
like to different countries and stuff. So if they could have like a global Buffy the Vampire Slayer video game.
But do you want the actors
I
to
would be
reprise
excited.
their roles?
Oh, are you kidding? Yes. Yes. Especially
Well-
Spike. James Marsters is my hero. If he could come in as a voice actor.
Yeah, and with
Absolutely.
voice acting getting so big in video games, like they're getting really big names for it, I'm sure they'd be up for it. Like, I feel like that's actually somewhat plausible if they can get a good story behind it.
If they can put it on Kickstarter, I'm like, shut up and take my money. All my money will go towards Buffy.
All right. And I assume yours is going to be Batman.
Is it? Oh.
What was the first one?
Well, yeah, like Batman's my favorite. Everyone knows, Arkham City was my favorite game, but now we have, Arkham Knight coming out, and it's so beautiful. It almost brings a tear to my eye.
Oh, the Batmobile in
Like,
that
there's
game?
so much,
Nice.
like, to me, when I see Arkham Knight, I instantly think, like, of a twisted version of, like, Batman Beyond. And Batman Beyond was, like, just such a great show.
That is a nice.
It deserved more.
Yeah.
And, like, you get the Batmobile, like, it's everything you want. And with Mark Hamill not, reprising his role as the Joker anymore now that the, spoiler alert, Joker's dead.
No.
I haven't finished that game. I
Well-
really haven't. I hate you so
Sorry.
much.
It's okay.
It happens, but
I'm sure
other
he'll be
than
back.
other
I
than
mean-
Batman, with the success of like the Flash television show and the Arrow television show, I want a game. If people are listening to me out there, I want a game, and I want it to be beautiful, and I want it to be done by the same people who do, the Batman game. So Rocksteady, if you're listening,
That would be good. And also, I'd love a Green Lantern game. Green Lantern was always my favorite because he's so cool, and that movie ruined him. And I just want him to have something good. And like his game was okay, but it was a movie-based video game, so like it could only
Let's
go
be
so
real,
far
like-
before getting cheesy and canned.
I mean, even in my segment, I kind of briefly mentioned that, but I'm done with the Ron Reynolds Power Minute. Like,
Yeah,
Ryan
yeah.
Reynolds is Deadpool, though. I'm looking forward
I'm
to that.
fine with that.
just
He's
saying.
good with
Like
Deadpool.
Green Lantern,
I mean, it's
Deadpool,
chimichanga
let's
time
do it,
all the
let's do it.
time,
It's
but
time.
come on.
Yeah, I think he's going to be great for Deadpool so long as they don't do that X-Men Origins
Ooh,
stuff. But
That movie doesn't exist to me.
But yeah,
Well, it
also
doesn't exist in them anymore either, so.
I would also be perfectly fine with them getting the same person who did the voice for the Deadpool game. Because the Deadpool game was amazing. I absolutely loved every minute of that. It was hilarious. It had all the things I think Deadpool was
Is.
famous for and is. And it's just, I was really impressed with that game. And I wish they could do things going forward as well as they did that. Because Marvel, I feel like, is always kind of slouching with their video games.
The movies,
And DC
yes.
tends to be a little higher up on it.
Maybe they just kind of rush to kind of get them out.
I
Hey,
feel like they
this game
only
don't
do
look-
them because the movies are coming out. And I
Yeah.
want them to have games for the sake of games because gaming is something that superheroes work so well with.
I mean, with movie adaptations, though, like, even with, like, the X-Men Origins thing, like, the Wolverine game was okay. Like, it was great. But other than that, like, please just give us stuff. And
Yeah. Anyway, that's all we have for that. We'll be right back with more Final Boss.
This week, Final Boss takes a look at the much anticipated game, Star Wars Battlefront. While this new game is the third to feature the Battlefront title, it's a reboot being developed by DICE, owned by Electronic Arts. So far, what we know about the game is that it's set in the Galactic Civil War, which occurred in the original trilogy. From the trailer, we see familiar planets like the fan-favorite planet of Endor, the icy plains of Hoth, and the barren desert of Tatooine. Like previous Battlefront games, it features first-person and third-person mode. The game will not feature a single-player campaign like its predecessor, Star Wars Battlefront 2, but instead have a set of co-op missions. Multiplayer is available on a new battle log system developed by DICE from scratch, which will be used in a new game mode called Walker Assault. This system will allow up to 40 players to play together. Fans of the series are worried that much of the good content, such as single-player campaigns and epic space battles, are being held back for DLC, claiming DICE is using milking tactics. DICE developer Jesper Nielsen posted to Reddit recently to assure fans this was not the case. If you think there's anything we're not including in the game to save it for DLC, I can tell you, you're 100% wrong. In this project, I've never heard anyone say, let's not do this for launch so we can do it as DLC instead. Ever. So, while you may have your doubts, this game has been in development for a long time, and I predict it'll be well worth the wait. As a huge Star Wars fan, I'm really looking forward to this game because it'll be linked with tie-ins to the new movie Star Wars The Force Awakens. Battlefront, which has a release date of November 17th, comes out 1 month before the movie, hopefully providing plenty of teasers and spoilers for the film. I mean, have you seen the trailer? Not gonna lie, I may have teared up at the end. And no, I don't think the crossguard lightsaber is stupid. It seems like that would have helped out a few characters from the film. But I digress. If you pre-ordered the game, you'll receive the DLC The Battle of Jakku a week before everyone else. The Battle of Jakku DLC is said to bridge the events of Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, taking place 1 year after the Battle of Endor. If you're looking for something to occupy your time until the new Star Wars game or movie comes out, you can always take advantage of the really great sales going on due to Star Wars Day approaching. So game on, fellow gamers, and may the Force be with you.
Chewie, we're home.
Stay tuned for more here on Final Boss.
Hello and welcome back to Final Boss, and today I want to take a trip down memory lane and shed some light on a seriously underappreciated game console, the Sega Dreamcast. Development started shortly after the Sega Saturn was released, and the system went by the codename of Katana. At the time, the only place the Sega Saturn was doing well was in Japan. The Saturn was hard to develop for though, so outside of Japan, third-party support was pretty barren. Because of this, Sega decided to make a game console that was extremely easy to develop for, and round up as much third-party support as they could before releasing it. Eventually, the Dreamcast was released on November 27, 1998 in Japan, where the launch was a disaster. Due to complications with NEC, Sega couldn't manufacture enough units, so many potential buyers had to be turned away. Luckily, they learned from this mistake when Sega of America launched the console. For the first year, the Sega Dreamcast was selling out in many stores, likely due to the incredible visuals and impressive launch titles like Soul Calibur, Crazy Taxi, and Sonic Adventure. Of course, another reason it may have been successful was because of the online component. Many people look back on the Sega Dreamcast and consider it very far ahead of its time, and it's really easy to see why. The Dreamcast pioneered several things that have become increasingly commonplace in gaming today. For starters, the Dreamcast was the first console with built-in online functionality, with games such as Phantasy Star Online taking advantage of this. The VMU was yet another one. It functioned in several different ways, from displaying information on its screen like the Wii U, taking your game with you like a phone companion app, or just being a memory card. Sega was clearly thinking very far ahead with this system. Unfortunately, though, there's one place where it didn't look so far ahead: DVD. Shortly after the launch of the Dreamcast in Japan, Sony announced the PlayStation 2, which launched the DVD craze throughout the world. People didn't really buy the PS2 for games, but its DVD playback gave it the edge it needed to beat the Dreamcast. As much as you probably want to see a visual representation of the Dreamcast versus the PS2, I don't think we here can show such a brutal depiction of murder. After only 2 years on the market, Sega announced the discontinuation of the Dreamcast on March 31st, 2001. The lack of a DVD player in the Dreamcast is by far the biggest thing that ended up killing the system. Despite high sales for the period in which it was around, the domination that was the PS2 just couldn't be stopped. At the very least, Sega did go out on a high note that will forever make me feel dirty when I play a PlayStation 2. Several games that were originally released for the Dreamcast, like Shenmue 2 and Sonic Adventure 2, as well as games that were originally in development for the Dreamcast like Fable and Gun Valkyrie, were released on different systems like the Xbox and GameCube. Around the time of the demise of the Dreamcast, Sega was in talks with Microsoft to have the Xbox feature Dreamcast support, but these conversations ended up falling through, and Sega just signed a deal to release some games for the Xbox instead. Despite its short lifespan, the Sega Dreamcast is one of the most fondly remembered game consoles. When you take a look back at the games released for it, as well as just what all it brought to the table, you could clearly see one of the most forward-thinking, as well as creative systems ever made. Fortunately, it's not highly sought after, so if you're interested, they're very cheap to find these days, and because it's such a cult classic, people are actually still making Dreamcast games to this very day. But that's all the time we have for right now, so keep it glued to MSU TV and keep on dreaming on. I would play the Aerosmith song, but I can't.
Welcome back to Final Boss. Now, unfortunately, our producer John Dunaway has reached the end of his time here with Final Boss, so we want to end the show by just talking to him a little bit about how far the show has come with him at the helm.
I am so ready to graduate. Like, can I go ahead and get that out of the way? I'm going to miss all of you all, but I am so done with this bachelor's degree.
Yeah, it's something. I've got 2 more years, so I don't know.
And, you know, when we started doing Final Boss, as a radio show. It was like just an audio thing. Literally, I was trying to think of the laziest thing I could do and still get credit for it. And I thought, you know, if Sam and Robert and I sat around and hung out in the audio lab and then I called it a show, it'd be a pretty easy thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And then, so I produced the radio show, then Sam produced it, and then Robert wanted to produce a radio show. And Tim was like, you all have done 3 semesters of, or you all have done 2 semesters of this radio show, it's time to let somebody else be on WPRC. So I thought, oh, okay. So then we pitched him the pilot for the show.
Yeah.
And the first time we did the actual TV show, we produced it in my dorm room. we grabbing video from YouTube, grabbing stuff off the capture card.
Yeah.
and cutting it together and putting some voice with it. The whole thing was produced without ever actually utilizing a real camera.
Yeah.
Except I think our last show we got into Studio B and did something. Because like we had a video news desk where we videotaped Robert reading the news. And then we did 2 more semesters of Final Boss. We did a semester that we did crew calls, right? Like big old full-scale crew calls for length, right? We did like, I think last semester we did what, 12 shows or something. And then this semester we switched to, we did an HD. So I think we've really not, I mean, like I said, I'm going to be sad to not do Final Boss anymore, but we've done everything. We did a lot of shows. We did a bunch of really high-quality shows. We did radio shows. We produced it YouTube style.
It's pivoted a lot, and I feel like that really
kinda
shows what it was able to accomplish.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And the pitch when we originally pitched the pilot was that it's the only show for 17 to 21-year-old guys.
Yeah.
On MSU TV. That was my pitch. It's like people will actually watch this, and I think they did. I mean, everything we can find says they did. So it's bittersweet for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of excited to go maybe do something else for a little while, but I like what we did here.
Yeah. Now, as far as like when you did radio and now you're doing television and like moving into high definition, what would you say was like the most memorable of those things? Like at what point did you really start to think, oh, I'm going to get really serious about this? Because you did mention it kind of starting out silly.
My computer exploded in the middle of cutting our second episode, and that's when it got real. Because we drove my computer to Lexington to get fixed, rushed back. Thankfully, what happened is my Mac screen split down the middle and switched, okay? And so I was able, before the computer went out for good, to get all of our files backed up onto a drive. So we drove the computer to Lexington, drove back here as fast as we could, and cut the show in the audio lab, or the edit lab over there. I think we were there till like 11 or something. So we didn't miss our deadline. I don't think we've ever actually missed a show deadline.
Yeah, I think just being able to hit deadlines is where you start to realize that it's kind of like a job and not so much just something you do for fun.
There's been real continuity for me because we keep doing it. And then we put it online as well at decaturgaming.com. So that's the future of Final Boss. You can visit us on the web. We'll be doing the same stuff we do here, just not actually in the studio.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this, our 6th season of Final Boss. As always, we've had an amazing time. I really hope you guys enjoyed this season as much as we have. We'd like to thank you, John, for just everything you've done with this show, and we really hope you nothing but the best as you go forward with your career. We know you're going to do amazing things, and we just can't wait to see what you produce in the future. As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer, Tim Creekmore, as well as MSU TV for allowing us to use their facilities. We hope you guys have a fantastic summer. I'm your host, Teddy Jack, and this is Final Boss.